Was the golf ball the only thing you got hit by, or was it more than that?
There's some number of bottles with some brown stuff in them, so I'm not sure. Probably not moonshine. I don't think they'd waste the moonshine on me.
And for, 4.5, 5 hours inside of that stadium, man, it was absolutely electric. Our fans showed out in a great way. It's, I'm going to be honest, man, that's why I wanted to be here, because I believe in the power of the T. I believe in this university, believe in this athletic department, and I believe in this fan base, man. And tonight was a great showcase of that.
Can a defensive player win the Heisman? And you've got so many good ones. Is there one that you all could promote?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. I would probably have said before the season that's impossible, because statistics lead you to believe that it's always going to be an offensive player. We don't really care. We let you guys decide that, and I respect it, but it's not something that we look for. And I'll be honest with you, the guys on our team are so bought into their roles, and as long as they do that, we'll keep getting better.
We had a play called. We called timeout. We changed the play.
Did you see something you didn't like, or?
You want to know the truth? I'm not going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus.
Again, 2 questions. Who's your quarterback moving forward, and how do you explain that run defense?
Yeah, those are 2 really good questions.
No, it was horrible communication, I would say, is how I would evaluate what that was. I mean, it's a nice way to put it, and I'm sure that if you wrote it that way in the article, that they'd appreciate it, but I can't say that that's 100% factually correct.
I'm trying to establish a culture, trying to recruit great players, and we can't skip steps. And I would have liked to, and I thought maybe we could have, and maybe I got the fan base too excited and thought maybe we could skip that step, but we can't. We can't skip a step.
Welcome into the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Mykel Williams. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm normally joined by the Tennessee Homer, but cousin Shane still can't get him on the line this time. He does have a good excuse. He's stuck at work, so I do apologize. Shane will be back for our Fridays Picks podcast, and honestly, when I found out Shane couldn't be here, I almost didn't do the show, but hey, I did that last week, and there was a mini revolt, so I got to give you guys the SEC content like you deserve. Not a ton to talk about, to be honest with you. You got so many teams on a bye this week in the SEC, but we do have some news and nuggets to get to, so I didn't want to go a day without giving you guys a show. So, and hey, before we get rolling here, don't forget PrizePicks.com, proud sponsor of the show. Daily fantasy action over there at PrizePicks. I know the NBA is getting going now, so that's just another sport you can get in on the daily fantasy action over at PrizePicks.com. And don't forget to use that promo code SEC to get you up to $100 bonus, initial deposit bonus for everybody that signs up at PrizePicks.com. That's a terrific way to help the show grow. But hey, on with the show. And as always, we like to start with something funny if we can. And the best thing I saw, how about this Eli Manning, man? We all know Peyton as the Joker. Well, Eli, he's a pretty good troll himself. Throw it up here on the YouTube. And if you're just listening, Eli Manning tweeted out a picture of Peyton Manning on the golf course wearing all his Tennessee gear. And the caption, "Not sure who threw that golf ball," quoting Peyton Manning. So, hey, Eli knows how to troll just as well as Peyton. I just thought that was fantastic. I cannot wait for that Monday Night Football return. I think it's next weekend. Peyton and Eli will be back calling the Monday night action. So, looking forward to that. I wonder, you got to believe Eli's going to bring some golf balls to that thing. But, hey, all with the show. And speaking of Tennessee, really I was waiting for Cousin Shane to discuss this one. But since he is not showing up here, big news on Rocky Top. Let's kick it on down to Knoxville, where, I don't know if you've seen these, the latest allegations. I'll throw them up here on the screen from old Jeremy Pruitt's attorney. We got some back and forth here. Of course, we all know the story by now. all the allegations and all that, and the Jeremy Pruitt era is why Tennessee is currently under investigation. Now, they have not received notice of allegations at this point. Still, the investigation continues, internal investigation, NCAA investigation. And when Tennessee fired Jeremy Pruitt, they fired him for cause and cited multiple level 1 violations. Those are the most severe violations. Brian Niedermeyer, the bag man, he was fired, along with Shelton Felton was also fired. So multiple coaches here fired, including the entire recruiting team down there at Tennessee. Everyone in the recruiting department now at Tennessee, completely new people, because everybody had to get fired with Jeremy Pruitt. Now, old Jeremy Pruitt's lawyer, he's on a media campaign. He's making threats. Jeremy Pruitt's lawyer says the malfeasance goes well beyond Pruitt, before Pruitt, after Pruitt, all this stuff. Other sports, he's drug Philip Fulmer into this. He's drug Rick Barnes into this. Ooh, it's getting dirty over there. But Philip Fulmer, according to Chris, these comments come from Chris Lowe, the outstanding ESPN reporter. He has noted that Philip Fulmer released a statement. Jeremy has no one to blame but himself. He had a great opportunity at a great university, and he simply screwed it up. And Rick Barnes, who, not one to fire a lot of shots here, he's got some shots for old Jeremy Pruitt. And, I can't help but think, when old Jeremy, the Gump, was up there at Tennessee, I remember, he used to use Rick Barnes as a recruiting tool, and how the Tennessee basketball program was kicking ass, as he called it, and he would take pride in that on the recruiting trail. Well, now he's calling him out. It's funny how the tables turn here, but Rick Barnes got a response. And again, these are from Chris Lowe of ESPN. This is a quote from Rick Barnes. I'll throw it up on the screen here so you can read it. I'm really disappointed that Jeremy would throw people's names around that he knows did nothing but support him the entire time he was here and make these unsubstantiated claims. I would invite the NCAA to come in any day of the week to investigate our program. I have too much respect for our players, our school, and our administration for someone to ever think we're not doing things right here and make such ridiculous statements. Jeremy is not here because of the decisions he made and the way he led his program. Here's what I know. Our university has done everything it possibly can in working with the NCAA to clean up the mess he left behind and bring this to closure. And why this is so comical, at the end of the day, what is the lawyer really thinking here? Basically, their plan is, they're saying you cannot fire. If you don't know, Jeremy Pruitt and his lawyer, they're suing Tennessee currently, saying that Pruitt deserves his buyout and he didn't break any NCAA rules. Yet now they've come out, they set a deadline, I think it's October 29th. They're saying pay the full buyout by this deadline, or we'll release all this violations that we know that Fulmer and Rick Barnes and other coaches. He cited Willie Martinez, who was under Butch Jones, who is now works for Josh Heupel. So how in the hell can Jeremy Pruitt sit here and say all these violations, yet I didn't do any? It just doesn't make any sense. And what he's really trying to do is just strong arm the University of Tennessee and get him to pay his buyout, and he'll keep his mouth shut. So it's kind of a dirty tactic. It is what it is, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Maybe there is information out there that Tennessee doesn't want. I always thought it was interesting that when Pruitt got fired, Fulmer had to step down. Of course, they hired Danny White to be the new AD, and they made it very clear time and time again. Fulmer, we want to protect his legacy. He's not involved in all this. I find that hard to believe. He had to have known some things were going on. Not saying Fulmer was out here giving people money, but it was pretty clear they were trying to protect Philip Fulmer. And, if he had done nothing wrong, I don't think he would have immediately just stepped down the way he did. Now, maybe he would have, because he likes Tennessee, because he loves Tennessee so much, and all these violations occurred under his watch. But it was pretty evident to me that they were doing what they can to protect Fulmer. So there may be, a shred of validity here to what Pruitt had to say, but at the end of the day, it goes back to what I said. He's claiming he deserves his buyout. He didn't do anything wrong, yet he's got dirt on what happened before him, what happened in the basketball program. I mean, how in the hell would he have dirt on the basketball program if he was not also involved in creating violations, which, it's kind of hard to, that's just unfathomable to me. So, hey, we'll see what comes of this, but just another day on Rocky Top. You know what? And speaking of that, man, I've been waiting all week to talk about some Tennessee, Alabama, but Josh Heupel was on the coaches teleconference here on Wednesday, asked for an update on Hendon Hooker. Let's kick it over to Coach Heupel.
I have to at least start with a Hendon Hooker question. How's he looking throughout the first half of this week, Coach?
Yeah, he's still day-to-day at this point, getting some work on the field. As we get to the end of the week, we'll know if he'll be available for this one.
All right, so as you'd expect, no real news. He's not going to really give much information here for Nick Saban and company, but Hendon Hooker, day-to-day, whatever that means, had to leave the Ole Miss game, did not come back in. But, man, one thing I got to get off my chest, because I put this out there the moment Josh Heupel said it, and I'm seeing so many Tennessee fans saying, let's rest him. We got to rest him up. We got to buy on the other side, get him for the final stretch of the season. And I'm just sitting here shaking my head, and it's not because these people have confidence in Joe Milton. What it is, these people have no confidence that Tennessee can beat Alabama. And you may be laughing here because you may think Tennessee doesn't have a shot at beating Alabama. But, let's make no mistake. This is historically one of the great rivalries in college football. And I think the thing most programs have to get over when they face Alabama is I think the vast majority of them don't believe they can beat the Crimson Tide. But I think that's what teams like Texas A&M and Clemson and Ole Miss, when they had their run over Alabama, LSU, we've seen from time to time. I think that may be missing from Georgia. It's the belief that you can beat Alabama, as unlikely as it is on the field. I mean, it all starts with belief. And I'm seeing this from so many people that clearly they're just chalking up Alabama as an automatic loss. And I know the streak, I believe it's at 14 consecutive years. So, hey, it's kind of fair for them to say that. But, put some pride back in your name. This is the University of Tennessee. Did you not just see the game last week with, 104,000, whatever it is, packed in that stadium, checkerboard? I mean, they're trying to bring back a winning culture. We got Theo Jackson out here this week talking about the culture changing inside the locker room. We've got the coaches bringing back positivity. Yet some of the fans need to get on board here, man. And this is ridiculous. You cannot win this game without Hendon Hooker. And who knows? I mean, just imagine, as unlikely as it is, I know the game's in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, probably the second best team in the country. But if you were able to pull off the miracle upset, this kind of bullshit, and that's what it is, it's bullshit, rested players because we can't win against Alabama, it all ends. You just need one monumental upset like this to get people back in believing that Tennessee can pull off these wins. And at this point, and maybe it's just a minority, and maybe I'm just seeing a couple people and I'm kind of overreacting to their comments, but I mean, it's ridiculous. This is supposed to be one of the most prideful fan bases and programs in the country, and here people are wishing players to rest up so that maybe they got a chance against Kentucky and Vanderbilt. And I mean, come on, give me a break. You go full tilt against Alabama because that's what you need to win. You got to have that belief, but you're going to need your star players to do it too. And make no mistake, Hendon Hooker, believe it or not, people outside of Tennessee, Hendon Hooker's been one of the stars of college football this season the way he's playing. So I just hate to see that, and I hope Tennessee fans have a little bit more pride than what I'm seeing. And again, it's not all of them. It is a minority to be sure, but I don't know. I just hate to see it. But speaking of that, let's kick it to the other side of this rivalry. Let's kick it on down to Tuscaloosa, where Alabama, obviously the Crimson Tide rolling in on a wave of momentum after last week, going on the road, beating Mississippi State by 40 points, 49-9, I believe was that final score. And now we're coming back home, got a ton of confidence. We're playing better after the Texas A&M defeat. And after watching that game, it certainly seems like Nick Saban's got his team buying into his message, letting them know, they're not going to be given anything. They have to earn it. They got to take it on the field. And that's what they did against Mississippi State. Make no mistake. I mean, that defense, they took it from Mississippi State, literally. And the defense damn near knocked Will Rogers out of that game. They hurt him pretty bad. And he was not the same. But that's the Alabama we're used to seeing. That's the Alabama we thought we were going to see. And at times we haven't seen it this year. So maybe Alabama's more dangerous than ever now that they've lost because they know their margin for error is gone. You cannot afford to overlook a team like Tennessee, something you probably would have done in the past. But again, I know they have a major, major talent advantage in this matchup. Hell, they just, I don't want to say stole, but they acquired arguably Tennessee's best player during the offseason, Henry To'oTo'o. And that's something Coach Saban talked about, Henry T. and his performance this season with the Crimson Tide. How, if at all, does that play a factor in this game? Maybe Tennessee, I don't know. I would imagine a lot of those guys have no love for Henry T. this week, even though it does seem like they have supported him since he left. But Saban gave an update on Drew Sanders' status, Byron Young's status, on Tennessee's offense and how difficult it's going to be to stop that group, and on Henry T here, as well as on the backside of this, I was going to add during the coaches teleconference, Josh Heupel and Nick Saban talking about the rivalry between these two and where they see it in their eyes.
Yeah, hey, Coach. Just seeing if you have an update on guys like Drew Sanders and Byron Young who have been dealing with injuries.
Yeah, Byron Young has practiced. He practiced today. We're hopeful that he'll be able to contribute some in the game. Drew Sanders is probably very doubtful for this game, but we're hopeful that maybe he'll be with the bye week coming up and another week. It just depends, they got to re-x-ray his wrist and make sure that everything is okay in there. And we're hopeful that he'll be back for LSU.
Tennessee has one of the better running offenses in the nation. What makes them so effective or unique in that game?
Well, I think that they go fast, so people have to get lined up and be ready to play. I think they got a really good runner, and I think their quarterback's ability to run, contributes to that in terms of quarterback run. So when they run the zone play, he's very capable. If you try to cheat the end on the dive, the quarterback's going to pull the ball. And, they've been very effective at doing that. And they're very well coached. So they don't usually do it and make bad plays. They usually do it and make very positive plays. So they've got quarterback runs. They've got quarterback draws. They get you spread out and run those plays, which is very challenging for the people up front. So, and they've got ability to throw the ball. So you can't just say we're going to play the quarterback runs because they made a lot of explosive plays in the passing game because the vertical stretch of the field. And when they get you spread out, they'll spit it out there if you don't have enough guys out there and, make positive plays as well. So this offense is very challenging.
Guys in the middle of the defense normally, or that's sort of guys that especially call the defense, that's sort of a leadership role. How was that for Henry To'oTo'o this year, coming in as a first-year player at Alabama, and how has he sort of progressed in that role?
Yeah, Henry has done a really good job. He's a good communicator. He's smart. I think he helps everybody else play better up front in terms of his ability to communicate, have good understanding of the defense, what the offense is trying to do, what we're trying to do on defense to stop it. And I think that's been very helpful to all of our players. Communication on defense is really important in adjustments. And that's one of the things that I think Henry has really added, to our group is his ability to communicate and help other people be confident in doing the right things.
You mentioned this being a rivalry game. I know historically it's a great rivalry, and but Alabama's won 14 in a row, and I know you weren't involved in any of those games. But how tough is it to have a rivalry when one team has won 14 in a row over the other? And how important is it, for you guys to get a win in this thing?
For us, it's really important that we continue to build the culture and build our program. Absolutely, it's important to get a win in this football game, in this a rivalry between the two schools. So, but for us, it's about controlling the controllables, continuing to grow, continuing to prepare the right way. Our players continue to get better week by week, and this is our next opportunity.
But do you feel like this is still a legit rivalry game given the circumstances?
Yeah, for sure. The historic nature of it, absolutely.
Hey Nick, how you doing today?
Good, Bob. How are you?
I'm good. You mentioned rivalry games. Josh did too. But Alabama, and I know the historic nature of this, but Alabama's won 14 in a row. Can it really be a legit rivalry game when it's that one-sided, or is this more of it's another SEC game for you guys?
Well, it's you can say it however you want to say it, but it's a significant if you don't have success in the game because it's significant to a lot of people. And what happened the last however many years you talked about will have no impact on this game at all. And the only thing that matters is what happens now. So for now, this week, it's a rivalry game to me, and I hope it is to everybody in our organization.
All right, so we all know Nick Saban as the greatest of all time, but one thing that he has not let, the guy doesn't let anything get past him, but one thing I think he has done an outstanding job of is he has let the older fans who really believe that Alabama and Tennessee is, aside from maybe the Iron Bowl, Alabama-Tennessee, the best rivalry for the Crimson Tide. He has honored that, and hell, his team always shows up against the Vols. There's never a letdown. So I think he's done a really good job of enforcing that with his team, letting them know what a big game this is for many, many, many in that Alabama fan base, and it shows each and every year. And I was talking about Tennessee pulling off the upset, but at this point, I don't know if it's ever going to happen as long as Nick Saban is down there in Tuscaloosa. And when he does retire, whether it's this offseason or in a decade, there's a good shot he's undefeated against Tennessee, and that'll probably be one of the top things on his bio, I would imagine, by the time he hangs him up. Next, let's kick it on down to Gainesville. I know the Florida Gators are on a bye, but like I said, there wasn't much news here in the SEC on Wednesday, but we got some big ones here because 4-star linebacker Shamar James decommitted from the Gators. Why is that so big? Position of need for the Gators. Hell, we just saw the defense get run all over by LSU. The number 10 linebacker prospect in the country, James, is currently rated. He was the highest rated Florida prospect on the board, and it looks like he may be flipping to Georgia or Alabama. Either way, it's bad. It's particularly bad if he jumps to Georgia and Kirby Smart. We talked about Luther Burton going to Missouri. This is the opposite effect here with fans already pissed off at Dan Mullen, fans already upset that Mullen and his program are not elite recruiters. Now they just lost their highest rated prospect here. And during the coaches' teleconference here on Wednesday, Mullen was just peppered with questions about the quarterbacks. Emory Jones, Anthony Richardson, where's that thing stand? And he was getting questions about Todd Grantham's status and the direction of his program. This was an ugly, ugly call, I thought, for Dan Mullen.
Have you reopened the quarterback competition? How do you plan to distribute practice reps going forward?
Yeah, you know what? We're really fortunate. We have two really good quarterbacks here, and we've played both of them in every game that they've been healthy. So I see us continuing down that path.
Okay. What words of encouragement, Dan, about the program's direction can you offer fans and recruits right now? Coming off a loss like this, obviously people are upset, and I've seen some decommitments from some top recruits this week.
Yeah, I think we're headed in a good way with the attitude of the program. Our kids here on the team have a great attitude, great focus. The energy we've had at practice, has been really good. And so, I'm pretty pleased with where the mindset of the guys on the team are right now.
Hey, Dan, let me follow up on Edgar's quarterback question. In the past, You've been pretty firm that Emory is the starter. Is that still the case?
Yeah, I mean, like everything, we'll look at everything and we evaluate everything that we do all the time. And, just like at every spot on the field. So, but like I said, we have both guys have played a bunch. We've got experience, and we're fortunate to have the two guys that are a pretty good combination out there on the field together.
Hey, Dan, you said that you want to, you're constantly evaluating everything you do all the time. When the question was asked about the quarterback situation, do you plan at this point on starting Emory against Georgia, or are you leaving that open-ended?
Well, I'm never going to get into the strategy of what we're going to do in the game. Like I said, we played both quarterbacks in every game, and I'm not really going to get into the strategy of when I'm going to play the different guys, and I'm like I'm not going to tell you what the first play of the game is going to be if that's what you're asking.
No, I was just asking if Emory was going to be under center to start the game.
I haven't set the script yet of what we're going to call for the first play of the game. So, we'll look at that as we'll get into the game plan, and like I said, I mean, I imagine we'll continue down. As long as everybody's healthy, we'll play both quarterbacks during the course of the game. But I'm not going to disclose, and be honest with you, we haven't gotten that far into game planning to know what I'm going to have for because you're asking who's going to play the first play of the game, right? So I haven't got to that part of who's going to play the first play of the game yet.
Hi, Dan. Did you make any defensive staff changes this week during the bye week?
No.
Well, I'm just curious if you did. When you look at it, how do you explain what they did against LSU, this defense? Because it played pretty well before that.
Yeah, and so that's what we look at. I mean, the inconsistencies we've had throughout the course of the season, have been kind of that we're looking at. I mean, we had one game, we went on the road and had 15 penalties, and then the next game we had 0. And so we're just looking at the inconsistencies and how do we shore up our inconsistencies to play at a more consistent level.
Have you started looking? I mean, Todd Grantham's contract expires in January. Have you started looking beyond, like, is Todd going to be here? Do you want him back in the next year, or do I need to start looking for a defensive coordinator?
Right now, we're looking at getting ready to play Georgia. To be honest with you, that's what we're looking at right now. So I haven't looked at all our coaches' contracts. I'm sure we have a bunch of contracts are up at some point, and and that's something that we look at kind of after the season when it's more kind of appropriate to do those things. And right now it's really preparation, and we're getting ready in the bye week of evaluating what we've done well, what we've done poorly, how to eliminate some of our inconsistencies, get a jump start on the game plan for the Georgia game, and obviously recruiting some guys heading out recruiting this weekend.
So at the end of the day, I mean, I understand Mullen is, he's trying to win football games down here. He's not going to give Georgia an edge, but at this point, it's almost like he could do himself some favor here by announcing Anthony Richardson as the starting quarterback, because it doesn't matter what he says. I mean, Georgia's going to be preparing for both of these guys, and you got to assume they're going to believe that Richardson is the starter, and they probably want it to be Emory Jones. So I don't know, why not just state the obvious here? Maybe that buys you a little bit of goodwill with your fan base that's just pissed off at the moment. But I don't know. I mean, he could have answered these questions many different ways, but he just decided to avoid it altogether. And I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work out down there in Gainesville. But speaking of recruiting, one more update here. Let's jump to Athens. I said the Bulldogs would be fine after missing Luther Burden. Well, they fine. They landed 5-star defensive lineman Mykel Williams, formerly committed to Southern Cal. He's one of the best prospects in the country, the number 5 defensive lineman, a top 30 overall prospect. And I'm sure Williams is looking there at their front 7 and looking at all these monsters on Georgia's defense just dominating college football and says, all right, I go there. I can be the next in a long line of guys to dominate in Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning's system. So, hey, the recruiting machine rolls on, and it's ironic somewhat that Kirby's landed him a 5-star while Dan Mullen just lost his highest-rated recruit. That's unfortunately for the Gators, kind of how this battle's been going on the recruiting trail far more often than not. And yet here we got Kirby Smart on the bye week, landed another 5-star prospect a day after missing a 5-star. And that's why they don't sweat any losses there at Athens, because as soon as they suffer a rare one, and I think that's why so many people were surprised, because when Kirby and Georgia's in it for a 5-star, more often than not, you expect them to land one. They get some bad news, 24 hours later, get some great news. But that's just what we've come to expect from Kirby and company. All right, so that's all we got on the show. Again, a slower day here in the SEC. Cousin Shane, I'll go to his damn house. I'll track this man down if he will not come on for the Picks podcast. I think he's really hurting about this Tennessee Ole Miss. So maybe reach out to him at Big Orange Vols on the Twitter machine. Give him some encouragement. Ask him where he's been. Ask him to move on from that Ole Miss loss. I think his Big Orange heart is hurting pretty bad this week. But don't give him too hard of a time. But I do appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out. And again, we'll be back on Friday with our Picks podcast, heading into another weekend of SEC action. But I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging in there during this solo pod. I'll catch you on the next one.
Hey, Lane, I haven't been able to get clarification. Maybe you can help me. But on that play with Matt Corral where he was a strip sack fumble, what did you see? What did you hear? And what did the officials tell you?
I didn't hear it because I couldn't hear anything from where I was. He heard a whistle blow. So did some of the players. That's why he completely stopped. It was actually a pass. He was going to throw it to Plumlee, who was wide open in the flat for a huge play. And he just stopped because he'd heard a whistle. And so did a number of our players. So strangely then, the refs didn't hear a whistle. So, there's nothing you can do in that. And also, too, I was looking at turnovers because we talk about turnover margins every week, and it wasn't a turnover, which was strange to me. But then I remember that they ruled him forward progress stop, which we're very thankful for that and appreciative of that call.
So was the whistle that you heard before the snap, is that what they told you? Because they thought the play was dead?
Yeah, Matt heard a whistle like you would hear right before the snap, like there had been a false start, delay game, something. So he just stopped. That's
okay.
Let the guy take the ball from him.
Okay.